There's a lot more we want to tell you about. We'll be back 1 hour from now, another live edition of 360 at 10 p.m. Eastern, live here from Hoboken. I want to tell you about what's happening in this entire region, the latest on the devastation. Piers Morgan tonight, though, starts right now.
Good evening. We start with breaking news tonight, looking at a nightmare in New York City. Hundreds of thousands, maybe, people trying to fight their way onto buses, walking across bridges. Traffic at an absolute standstill right outside our studio here in Columbus Circle. About 1.7 million people are still without power in New York in the wake of Superstorm Sandy, a storm that killed 56 people up and down the East Coast. And the crisis is far from over. Ambulances tonight lining up outside New York's Bellevue Hospital to evacuate 700 patients. Pumps that supply oil to the hospital's generators are underwater. And in New Jersey, flames raging through the shore town of Manahawkin. But the picture of the day has got to be this, something that would have been unthinkable just a few days ago. The Mutual Admiration Society between President Obama and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. This is what they saw when they flew over the Jersey shore in Marine One. And this is what the president promised to the victims of Superstorm Sandy.
We are here for you, and we will not forget. We will follow up to make sure that you get all the help that you need until you've rebuilt.
Meanwhile, with just 6 days to go until Election Day, Mitt Romney's in the must-win state of Florida tonight, striking a very new bipartisan tone.
I've got to be able to reach across the aisle and get good Democrats and good Republicans to work together. Good Democrats love America just like good Republicans love America.
Our special guest, Michael Moore, is here live for the whole hour tonight to react to all of the events. And to take your questions, tweet us at Piers Tonight. But we begin tonight with CNN's Jason Carroll, live at Manhattan's Queensboro Bridge, with more on the long, hard commute tonight for millions of New Yorkers. Jason, it's a rough time for many New Yorkers tonight. It's obviously a very rough time for many people on the East Coast. But in New York, it seems there's almost two cities now. You have the half with power, mainly upwards of 40th Street, and you have below 40th Street a bit of a nightmare with no power, traffic, absolute chaos out there. I had to walk earlier because it was just complete gridlock. What can you tell me about the subway, about power, and about when New York will be back on its feet?
Well, you know, that's a question that a lot of people are asking. I think it's very obvious from what we witnessed today. It's going to take a while before New York gets to what it used to be. Today, what we witnessed, thousands of people walking across the Queensboro Bridge, some still trying to make their home early tonight, Piers. And that's basically what we've been seeing throughout the day, not just here at the Queensboro Bridge, but also at the Brooklyn Bridge. Saw that as well. People trying to get into and out of the city without subway service, without train service. Foot was the only way you could do it, was just by walking. We did have the buses running, but even that was a nightmare for some. Some people telling us they waited 3-4 hours, Piers, to get on a bus today. And actually, just about a little more than an hour ago, as we were right out here at a bus stop, we witnessed just a crush of people trying to get on one bus that pulled up. People had been patient all day, but I think at that point, some of them had clearly lost their patience. There was some swearing going on, some pushing, a little bit of shoving, as everyone who had been lined up for hours did get on, things calmed down, and the buses went on as they should have. Tomorrow, I do have a bit of encouraging news for commuters. Based on what the mayor is saying, things should look a little bit better than what we witnessed out here today. We're expecting to see restored, at least in limited service, restored service on the LIRR, the Long Island Railroad, as well as on some subways. Again, I say limited service. What commuters should really do, Piers, is go online and check with the MTA to find out which subways will be running and which trains will be running in order to get into and out of the city.
Yeah, I think they're trying to give as much information as they can, but as I say, it is definitely a tale of two cities now in New York, and for those who have got no power, they're now into day 3 of this. The longer this goes on, I'm sure, the more many people will be feeling angry and concerned, and it's down to the authorities to allay that concern and indeed their anger. Jason, we had a few communication problems there, but you did a great job for us, as always. Thank you very much. Tonight, hundreds of patients from another major New York hospital are being evacuated, including newborn kids, after the storm knocked power out. It's happening at the massive Bellevue Hospital. Dr. Sanjay Gupta joins me with the latest. Sanjay, this sounds a pretty awful situation. We had yesterday NYU, and I got pretty exercised with one of their administrators saying, come on, how can you not be ready for this? You're on water, and you've been through hurricanes before, and you were warned for a week. This is going to be the big one. How are these generators, both at NYU and at Bellevue, the backup generators, why are they failing?
Well, let me put it to you like this. I mean, there's generators. This is Bellevue, by the way, behind me. It's eerily dark. I go by this hospital a lot. I've never seen it quite like this before, Piers. But the generators are sort of spread sporadically throughout the hospital. What the generators need, though, is fuel, and they need oil. And that fuel is often kept at lower levels because you don't keep the fuel on the rooftop, for example. At least that's not what was done here at Bellevue. There are pumps that pump that fuel to those generators. So, for example, at Bellevue, the backup generators on the 13th and 12th floors, when the pumps failed as a result of the water coming into the basement areas, the cavernous areas as they're called, those pumps failed, and people literally have been having to carry fuel up 12 flights of stairs now since yesterday. They created these bucket brigades in order to do that. But again, Piers, the important point is you have the generators. You can place those in more secure areas, and you can try and insulate these pumps as much as possible. They use a submarine technology to try and insulate the pumps, but water still got in. And they found out today that the water got in to the point where it damaged these pumps irreparably, and that's why that evacuation occurred today, Piers.
I think it's fair to say the staff at both these hospitals are doing an absolutely extraordinary job under what must be desperately difficult conditions, and I really want to single them out at both those hospitals, the nurses, the doctors, all the workers down there for doing a Herculean job. But again, I say, Sanjay, I mean, why would you plan hospitals that are near water where you have a key part of the power system in the basement? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and it's been a widely discussed thing. It's, I don't fully know the answer to that. I do know that one of the things about putting fuel in certain places in the hospital, they want to put the fuel closer to the ground, I think, just because transporting it up in terms of safety could be of concern. They've encapsulated these fuel pumps and these containers in what they thought was very, very good technology to try and keep them water resistant. But clearly, I talked to the president of this hospital, the guy who runs the show here, and it was similar to some of the answers you got last night, Piers, on your program. They said they thought they would hold. They thought the pumps would be safe. They weren't. And as a result, those generators failed.
Yeah, I just don't think it's acceptable. I'll be talking myself to the president of New York City's Health and Hospitals Corporation in just a few minutes. For now, Sanjay, thank you very much. First, New York Mayor Cory has been on every night. He's back on the phone now, the latest on a recovery effort in the state hit hardest by Sandy. Mr. Mayor, welcome back.
I appreciate it, Piers, and again, I continue to appreciate your coverage and focus on the issues.
How are things in New York? We saw the scenes with obviously Chris Christie and Barack Obama today in New Jersey. How are things where you are?
Well, again, the devastation in the southern parts of our state, command our attention, our compassion, and our prayers. Here in Newark, our major problem right now is power. That's still out to half of our city. There's still so many people in very vulnerable conditions, dependent upon medicines that need to be refrigerated, medical devices, and others who are facing trials. I've been up in senior citizen buildings where residents are trapped, disabled, unable to come down, and worried, and we've been delivering food and trying to get things done. And then, unfortunately, we announced a number of fatalities today. We've had 3 now in our city. One was in the immediacy of the storm, a drowning. But 2, unfortunately, today, 2 young women who had a generator hooked up and died of carbon monoxide poisoning. And this is what we fear. We now have recovery going on, and there are still hazards, and some of them are created by people who are trying to compensate for the lack of power by open flames, using their ovens to heat their homes, or generators. And it creates hazards for everything from fires to the carbon monoxide deaths that we've seen.
Yeah, a very sad story. But on a positive note, Newark Airport is partially open today and maybe fully reopened within the next day or so, do you think?
Yeah, look, yes, first of all, we're happy that it's open, and there'll be more and more activity. As we get these arteries open, we got the announcement today that New Jersey Transit buses are going to start running at a more limited schedule, but they will be running. As the arteries open, it begins to breathe life back into our community. People can get to and fro. They're not as stranded as they have been. We have people without power that have been stranded and unable to even get to a place where they could buy food. And again, we're a major transportation hub, so the ability to fly in and out helps us to get back to business as usual, and frankly helps people who are stranded here get to where they need to go away from Newark.
Mary Cory Booker, you've joined us every night live, and we really appreciate that, to give us the very latest news on what's happening in Newark. And please stay in touch with us over the next few days. It's obviously an ongoing crisis there, and we want to do what we can to help.
Thank you very much, Piers. All the best to you.
No question about it. This storm is unprecedented. The damage is catastrophic. The death toll rising all the time. And millions of Americans right now are completely in the dark with no power. It's all unfolding just 6 days before the presidential election, an extraordinary situation that's never happened before. Let's bring in my guest for the night, author and Academy-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, this is a pretty uncharted territory. We've got a general election next Tuesday, and almost nobody's talking about it. At the moment, they're talking about this phenomenal storm, the like of which New York has never seen before. You were here, I think, when it hit on Monday. Where were you?
I was in my apartment on the west side of Manhattan here. And our neighborhood didn't get blacked out. So, I mean, I did everything that everybody else did, getting ready for it. And actually, I sat through Katrina when Katrina happened. So I kind of been through a little bit of this before. And but what happened here, the scope of it. I don't think we really quite know the entire scope of it yet.
I think you're right. I think we're hearing all the time that the magnitude is just greater than anyone's quite grasped yet.
Right. And this is where we really need our news media to come in, because I think, if I may say this, that we need fewer, when this is happening, fewer of the reporters standing in waist-high water, seeing if they're going to be blown over. And more real reporting, real news, like what's really going on. People really were
let me pick up on that, because
this.
I've heard that criticism. I don't agree with it. I'll tell you why. When I see somebody like Ali Velshi, who's a terrific reporter, when he was standing there in Atlantic City, in the middle of the boardwalk, actually in water, the point of him doing that, I believe, and I agree with him, and others that do this, is that anyone mad enough to think they should be going out for a little stroll, walking the dog, or anything, looks at that and thinks, well, I'll stay in. What is wrong with that?
I was looking at it. I was watching Ali out there being blown around in Atlantic City. My first thought was, why is CNN trying to kill Ali Velshi? I mean, really. What did he do here?
Well, they said they don't want to kill Ali Velshi, but they, Ali.
Well, forgiven him for the 2008 crash coverage. So
right, but
why?
Because it's a dramatic image that fully tells the story of just how big this is and how dangerous it is. Isn't it?
Well, it does and it doesn't. I mean, I mean,
if it saves one life, isn't it worth it?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things you could do on CNN to save many lives, but we could do that another show. I think that there was a part of Queens that burned down on Monday night, and people didn't know about this while it was happening, which is kind of odd when you think about it. There's 130 homes, something like that now that they've added up.
I think it's 110 homes. I mean,
110 and then 20 more that have
well, I was anchoring this show at 9 o'clock till 10 and at midnight till 1, and we weren't aware of what had happened there.
Yeah.
I found that out when I woke up the following morning.
But why is that?
It's just because there's so much going on. It was like an apocalypse on the night.
I know, I agree, but again, this isn't the Manhattan Island is 3 miles wide. You know, that neighborhood over in Queens is another 5 miles. That's not a long ways away. Yeah. We're in a very condensed area. And I guess I would have thought too, with everybody with their cell phone cameras and whatever, that maybe there needs to be a better mechanism. I know you guys have had this eye reporter thing for some time, and I think that's really a good thing. But it was kind of shocking that something that happened, say, 8 miles away, nobody knew about it, and literally an entire neighborhood burned to the ground.
Well, we're going to come back to that because it is a shocking thing that happened. Listen, you know, if I'd known about it, we'd reported it straight away. It was a chaotic night with so much happening. Let's take a break. We'll come back, talk more about the storm, also about Christie and Barack Obama, this odd new bromance that's sprouting out of this. What do you make of it? Do you believe it?
Some people only see what's on the surface. Add depth to your perspective through our uncompromising investigations and unbiased insights. Trends, the international magazine on Arab affairs.
Come with me on a journey as diverse as America itself.
From Chicago to San Francisco and...
Governor Christie, throughout this process, has been responsive. He's been aggressive in making